In the article, what are we, 14A1 or we're 14A2? 14A1. 14A1. Okay. We just mentioned Rabbi Yitzchak was 4 lines from the top. The second part was Rabbi Yitzchak. We just mentioned Rabbi Yitzchak yesterday. If you recall, what was Rabbi Yitzchak's opinion? Rabbi Yitzchak's opinion was that if a person does a sin that carries with it the correct penalty, there's no malkut. And the Gemara says, how does he know that? The Gemara says 4 lines from the top. Rabbi Yitzchak Omer. Everybody have it? Navid, Dr. Navid. Chayvei krisot bechlal hayu. The sister the person who sleeps with his sister, that sin was included. The Torah had written that with other immoral acts that carries with it the karet penalty. Bechlal chayvei krisot bechlal hayu. It was included in the general rule. The Torah listed, let's say, 15 women or whatever, a certain amount of women that you can't have relations with. And then the Torah wrote, and if a person has relations with these women, there's karet, there's this cut off from the next row. And then the Torah goes ahead and rewrites again, if a person sleeps with his sister, he gets karet. You already told me that idea that there's karet for sleeping with one sister. Why does the Torah rewrite it a second time? So the V'lama yatzata karet b'choto. So why did the Torah go ahead and write karet specifically by one sister? Lidono b'karet v'lo b'malkut. The reason is to teach us lidono, to judge this case like the language of din, b'karet v'lo b'malkut. The emphasis on karet is to teach us that only karet and not lashes. That's what the Gemara says. And but then we have the rule. Then we have a rule. Anything that was part of a group and he left the group teaches us that it teaches about the whole group. Therefore, all those 15 women, let's say I need that, other women that are in that category that carries karet, they all will only get karet and not malkut. Oh, that's a good question. Everyone's question is a good question. Everyone's question is the following: what about other sins that carry with it the karet penalty? Meaning, it would seem very good, unless there's another rule. We'll share with you. Yaron's question is the following: once the Torah separated the sister from the category of 15 women, it taught us about the sister, that she only gets karet and not lashes. And then we apply the rule that anything that was in a group, when it leaves a group, not only it's coming to leave the group to tell us about that particular item, but also teach us about the rest of the group. And therefore, if sleeping with one sister, the Torah is teaching us this karet and not malkut, therefore, all those women in those categories also will only be karet and not malkut. Those women, nidah, and other forbidden relationships that I mentioned in that group. But Yaron wants to know, what about other cases in the Torah, which is not part of this group? Would we say that they would be subject to lashes? Because this lesson is only teaching us regarding this group, that this group does not get lashes. But other cases that are subject to karet, maybe they would get lashes. That's what Yaron's question. Or you could say the question, the other possibility would be, we have this rule of a mamatzinu. We find that the fact Torah revealed to us that in all these cases there's no malkut. Maybe that's teaching us that all cases of karet there won't be any malkut. So the answer to your question, if you look at the Gemara on Yud Gimel on the base, Rav Yitzchak said, it would, you see, they're generally arguing in all cases of, it would seem that they're arguing in all cases of Koreh, not just specifically, like Rav Yitzchak says on Yud Gimel on the base, all right? He says that the Torah, they're talking about general cases of Koreh, of Mitzat Bezdin, and they all miss, and the commentary here learns. Rabbi Yitzchak is teaching us the Torah is revealing to us by these women, and it applies across the board throughout the whole Torah. That all cases that carry Koreh, whether it's part of this group or other cases of the Torah that carries Koreh, will only be Koreh and not Makkos. You should know. There's a Mishnah that enumerates 36 cases of Koreh. I have to see if there's more, but we know there's a Mishnah that counts 36 cases of Koreh. 36 different sins, one in Mishnah that carry such a penalty. Okay, so that answers that, Yaron, your question. Yes. But remember, tshuva is always the way out. Even like today, the Rambam says, a guy does a sin that carries with Koreh, that's tshuva. But again, the Rambam says tshuva, but he also might need Yom Kippur, together with the tshuva, together with maybe some little punish pains. That's the way out. Tshuva is the way out. Repentance is the way out. Exactly. What? The Gemara on Yud Daled is elaborating and explaining his point, and what the Gemara is doing over here is questioning the Rabbanan. Meaning, we just said we're repeating what Rabbi Yitzchak said earlier. Dr. Navid is asking, the Gemara quoted Rabbi Yitzchak on 13b, and now on 14a, the Gemara quotes it again. What's the point of the Gemara quoting Rabbi Yitzchak's opinion? Right. So the Gemara, the Gemara now needs to elaborate on Rabbi Yitzchak, because the Gemara now is going to focus. What does the other opinions hold? Meaning, Rabbi Yitzchak brought a pasuk. Good morning, Mr. Ajmi.
Good morning, Rabbi.
Good morning. Good morning, Mike. Good
morning.
Morning. Rabbi Yitzchak brought a pasuk. Rabbi Yitzchak brought a source for his reasoning. What was his reasoning? He says the Torah goes out of it. Mr. B'tesh on you 14a, 1, article 1. The Gemara brought Rabbi Yitzchak gave his law, case, law, reason. He gave a law. What was Rabbi Yitzchak's opinion? Not the halakha. His opinion was there's no lashes by something that carries with it the Koreh penalty. No lashes. He's not subject to lashes. Even if you warned him about lashes, there's no lashes. That's Rabbi Yitzchak. But he brought a source. He didn't just make a statement. He brought a source. He brought from the way he understands the pasuk in the Torah, because the Torah went ahead and said an extra karet by one sister, and the extra karet by one sister was teaching us this point. According to his understanding, there's only karet, but emphasizing karet is teaching us only karet and not lashes. The question is, what are the other rabbis going to do with his pasuk? Meaning, if you bring an opinion, and your opinion is source based, and you bring a pasuk, Dr. Navid, he brought a pasuk, right? Rabbi Yitzchak brought a reason for his law. He says there's an extra time the Torah writes the word karet is to teach us only karet. So what do the rabbis do with that? What do the other rabbis who disagree with it? What do they do with that pasuk? So that's what the Gemara is bringing Rabbi Yitzchak again, because they're going to bring his opinion and use his opinion as a question on the other rabbis. Meaning, we've been explaining Rabbi Akiva's opinion for a while, right? we've been focusing on why does Rabbi Akiva say there's lashes by karet cases, there's no lashes by capital punishment. Now that we finished that, now we're going to Rabbi Yitzchak, was the third opinion. There was Rabbi Yishmael, Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Yitzchak. Now we're using his opinion and trying to say, hey, what does he do with, what do the other rabbis do with his source? That's what the Gemara is now doing. V'Rabbanan, the rabbis, Koreit ba'achoto lamali. Why does the Torah need to tell us that this Koreit by one sister? Why does the Torah have to repeat itself? Rabbi Yitzchak says, you know why it repeats itself? To tell you only karet and there's no lashes by one going with one sister. But Rabbanan refers here to Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Yishmael, both hold that if someone is warned about lashes with one sister, he is subject to lashes. So why did the Torah write the word karet by his sister extra? Why did it repeat itself? The only one who gave us explanation of the repetition of the word karet by one sister is Rabbi Yitzchak. And he says, you know why the Torah repeats itself that there's karet by one sister? To teach you there's karet and no lashes. That's why it repeats itself. It writes it a second time. By the way, you show in this week's parasha, the Ramban writes about the importance of having a family, of getting married and having children, that the Torah writes, it doubles, it writes it twice. It says, Morning Mr. Morning Mara. It says, Pruvu, and then it says, Shirsu v'ravu ba'aretz. The Torah writes it again, the idea of being, to emphasize something, to emphasize the mitzvah. That people have to encourage people to do the mitzvah with as much as they, with their strength. So here the question is, why is the Torah writing this mitzvah, this law twice? There's no need for the Torah. So if you're successful to teach you, there's only karet and there's no lashes. What did the other rabbis do with this? How did they explain the reason why the Torah writes karet by a sister a second time? Mr. Adri, is that clear? What do they do with what's the need? Okay, but the Gemara is going to give a different. Let's see what the Gemara answers. Okay, the Gemara says like this.
But this is also the same pasuk that everybody else. Not like
Yeah, but it is new because the other rabbis did not yet address the purpose of this pasuk, of the repetition of karet by sister. The Rabbana did not use this pasuk. They maybe used other pasukim. They did not use this pasuk to teach us. Only Rabbi Yitzchak used that pasuk. So the Gemara says, we are in the Hebrew, we are about 6 lines from the top, and in the English, we are about on the left column, Rabbanan. Left column, about 8 lines from the bottom, the first column. Rabbanan, karet b'achoto lamali. Why is it necessary for the Torah to repeat itself regarding karet? So the Gemara says, l'chalei. To divide, to separate the women. What does that mean, to separate the women? Could Rabbi Yochanan. The Gemara will explain Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan said regarding the Mishnah, when the Mishnah there's a Masechta called Krisut. There's a Masechta that's called on the name Karet, that deals with and enumerates and elaborates on cases that carry with it Karet. Just like we have a Masechta called Makkos that deals with lashes. So that deals with karet. And he says over there, if the person if a person violates all of those cases that are listed in the Mishnah in Krisut, in one forgetting, what does that mean? That means, let's say the guy went ahead and he did not know, he went ahead and he did this sin and he did that sin, all these different cases of sin that are listed in the Mishnah over there. And only after, one of Yosef, after he did many different sins, he was notified that, by the way, you have you violated all these sins. You did this thing wrong, that thing wrong, and that thing wrong. But while he was doing all these sins, he didn't know. He didn't know he never was told in between each sin he did something wrong. So it's like called one lapse. He didn't know. So different sins. So if it would be the same sin, so if a person does the same sin multiple times, the same sin, you repeat the sin multiple times, and you weren't told between each time, and then once you're notified, you bring one korban. You would bring one offering. It's like it's called one forgetting, one unintentional. It's instead of one sin. But if I did many different sins, and I was not told, I wasn't told between each one. Since each one is a separate sin, I am obligated a separate korban for each sin. So in the case over here, Rashi says the Torah had grouped these women, the Nidah, the sister, the different women that are forbidden, had grouped it in one karet. It had said if a person does, first it enumerates, don't do this, don't sleep with this woman, don't sleep with that woman, don't sleep with this woman, this relative, this, don't sleep with your aunt, don't sleep with, and then the Torah says, and this karet, if you do this karet. So what would a person said? Person would have said, if he slept with his aunt, and then he slept with a nidah, and he slept with his sister, these three different women, being that the Torah had grouped them under karet, and the one karet, maybe there's one korban. You would have thought that if he did these three sins in one lap without being told and notified between each sin, maybe he would only have to be subject to one offering, one chatat, one sin offering to cover the sins, the same way the Torah grouped these sins together. Therefore, the Torah removes the sister from the group and puts her on her own 2 feet as an independent, which means if a person, good morning, would just be with one sister, he would be subject to korban without doing all the other women. It's only just the sister would be subject to the korban. So therefore, then it teaches us the same way the sister alone will be obligated their own korban for a sister, so too will be obligated korban for all the other women as well. Again, it's teaching us the separating. If the Torah said, the Gemara's question was, Rabbi Yitzchak said, Rabbi Yitzchak have a source for my ruling. What did I say? Rabbi Yitzchak says, the Torah repeats itself as karet by a sister to teach us only karet, no malchut. That's how he understands. And therefore he comes to the conclusion, there's no lashes in a case of karet. The other rabbis who disagree say there is lashes in the case of karet. What does he do with that pasuk that repeats itself by the sister? So they say it's coming to teach us a total different law. Nothing to do with malchut. Someone sleeps with a sister, gets malchut. Why does the Torah emphasize karet by a sister? Repeat itself. Tells a different law. What law? If unintentionally a person did not know, I didn't know, I can't sleep with my sister. He didn't know it was his sister, and he slept with just her. He slept with her, and then he slept with another woman, a nidah, a different woman, a nidah. The Torah is saying this one alone, you bring a separate korban for this one alone. The sister by herself gets her own korban. It's not that there'll be only one sin offering for both together. Well, very good. You would think maybe it's only one korban, right? So then we have to bring in the other rule. What's the other rule? Exactly. Once something's in a group and it leaves the group, not only it leaves the group. No, but I need that to teach us all the other 15 women that are in that group. Because you said, Mr. Ashby, once the sister left the group, it teaches us about the sister in its own. But what about everything else? What about all the other women in that group? How do we know that each one? So therefore, we have a rule that when something was in a group and it left the group, and you taught us a unique law by that individual item, it's not only to teach us about that item that left the group, it's also come to teach that all the members of that original group that this one was originally part of.
I don't know why what you're saying, okay.
Let's say we have 15 women that the Torah says. Say it again. But the reason is because when something, let's explain it. We had a group. We had 15 women, let's say, or 15 cases in a group, morning sun. And based on that group, the way the Torah wrote it, after the Torah wrote, don't sin with this woman, all right, this correct. So what would we have said? We would have said that if a person went with each one of these women with one laugh, without knowing, not being brought to his attention that it's forbidden, he would bring one korban. Therefore, the Torah goes ahead and teaches us by removing the sister from the group, teaches us the sister is not part of that group. You don't need, the sister doesn't have, it says that the sister stands on her own 2 feet and will bring a korban by herself. But then you said, but at this point, we still have the rest of the members of the group still seem to be part of one korban, and the sister has been separated, that she gets her own korban. But then we apply the rule. What do we apply the rule? We say, since the sister was originally part of this group, and now it left the group, and it taught us a unique law regarding the sister, it's not limited to sister only. It's not the exception. Rather, it becomes the rule for that group that the sister originally was part of. Is that clear? And therefore, each one in the group will get a separate korban. That's the rule. There's Rabbi Yishmael Omer. Rabbi Yishmael says there's 13 midot haTorah nidreshet behem. There are 13 principles of expounding on the Torah, like we know Kal v'chomer, there is Shaveh, and then number 8 on the list is this ruling that we just had now. Anything that was part of a group, and it left the group to teach, it only come to teach about itself. Teach us about the whole group. That's number 8. Okay.
Rabbi,
yes.
This is the 13 midot של רבי ישמעאל אמר, the beginning of every prayer of every day.
You got it, Yosef. That's what we're connecting with it right now. Now. Multiple. Very good. So that's the Gemara is going to get to that. What about if the same woman has multiple prohibitions? Would we bring multiple korbanot to such a woman?
Because we're isolating the prohibition.
Very good. So that's what the Gemara is going to talk about. Do we look at the person? Do we look at the prohibitions? We're going to stay tuned. As we say, we're going to get to that coming up.
Take Millie out.
Okay. So the Gemara says, okay, now this rule that you're obligated on each one separately, a separate korban, is universally accepted. Everybody accepts that rule. And the Rabbanan is using the extra writing of Kareh by the sister to teach us that rule, that each one is independent and each one will get their own korban. Correct? That's what the Rabbanan. So now the Gemara is going to have a debate. I know last night there was a debate. But this is a real debate. It really counts. Last night was a good. You're from New Jersey, so we had a New York debate last night, and we had a governor's debate last night. But this is the real. But this is the real debate, the true debate. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Aaron. Good morning, Ariel. The true debate is the debate of Torah, the Makkos of Torah. So here, this is. You like that, Mr. Safdie?
David.
This is the real thing. The other ones are not emet, they're sheker, they're full of sheker. We all know they're full of lies, there's no question about it. But Torah, right, Simon, is emet. This is true. So what's the debate going on in the Gemara? The Gemara is saying the Gemara just said that the Rabbanan use this pasuk. Rabbis say that this pasuk teaches us that each sin would carry its own offering. Even if a guy did multiple sins, one right after the other, without knowing in between anything, but it was a different relationship. This woman, which was Anita, this woman was his aunt. You have to bring a separate offering for each one. Rabbi Yitzchak agrees to that, but he already used. But he already used the pasuk of the sister. The Torah writes the sister a second time to teach us something else. Teach us something about lashes.
Hey.
You can't double dip. So it's not available to teach us this law of separate offering for each woman sin that he did. For each woman, this different woman. So now the Gemara says, how does he know this law? How does he know the law for Rabbi Yitzchak, that if a guy slept with his aunt and then he slept with his nida, that he has to bring a separate offering for each one? The Rabbanan say he already used the verse of the sister to teach us something else. So it's not available. You can't double dip. Because when the Torah writes something, it's telling us one point. You want to learn a different point. And there are many ways you can understand the pasuk, but there are many interpretations of the pasuk. But if you're going to go ahead and bring a specific opinion in halakha, and you're using this part, you're saying the Torah wrote this for what purpose? For a specific reason. It could be different opinions of what the reason might be. What's that? He used the pasuk already. So what is it? Right. Yeah, no, but now we want to, how does Rabbi Yitzchak know this law? How does Rabbi Yitzchak know the law that obligated a separate offering, a separate korban for each different sin with these different women that were forbidden to him? How does he know each one is separate from the other? How does he know that each one has a separate korban? He already used this pasuk for something else. That's the Gemara's question. That's the $1 million question. It's you have to say $1 billion question, no $1 million question. That's the question, right? Where does he know this law? And it's not that he disagrees with the law that each one is separate as a separate offering. He agrees with the law that each one has a separate korban. If he slept with his aunt, slept with his sister, he has to bring a separate offering for each one. So where is his source for it? So the Gemara says, he has a different pasuk. Again, Rabbi Yitzchak lechalek minolei. How does Rabbi Yitzchak know to separate? So the Gemara says, Naftalei mel isha benidah tumata. The Torah says a woman benidah tumata. A lady, when she's a nidah, the Torah says you're not allowed to be with the woman, right? The pasuk says, "Vel isha benidah tumata lo tikrav legalot ervata." You should not get close to the woman when she's a nidah. And you should know that the Rambam says about this pasuk, that the Rambam says, this pasuk or similar pasuk, because the pasuk lo sikravu legalot erva, there's a pasuk you can't get close to the galot erva, that the Rambam understands that there is a biblical prohibition if a person has physical contact with a nidah, in a loving fashion, in a way of showing expressions of feelings, meaning to say, we spoke about nidah. Nidah carries karet. That means if a person sleeps with a nidah, it's karet. What about if a person hugs a nidah, kisses a nidah? What's the law there? So the pasuk, if you look at the language of the pasuk, this pasuk, I don't know if you have on your Gemara, it says lo sikrav legalter. Don't get close. So there's another pasuk that says lo sikravu legalter. You're not going to do things. Don't do things of closeness that could lead, things of affection that could lead to the actual big sin of sleeping with her. So that in itself would carry malkut. According to the Rambam, if a person goes ahead, let's say his wife's a nidah, and while she's in Nida, he gets physical with her, but he doesn't sleep with her. He gets physical with her. Now it's subject to lashing. It's not subject to karet because he didn't sleep with her, but it's subject to lashing if he's warned. The Ramban Nachmanides disagrees. He says it's rabbinically prohibited. There's no biblical prohibition. The Ramban says to sleep with it. No, sorry, to kiss a nida, to hug a nida is a rabbinic prohibition. But like I always tell people, do we keep Hanukkah? Do you keep Purim? So we keep Hanukkah. We keep Rabbanan, right? So according to Rambam, the Rambam in Torah, the Rahman is Rabbanan. No, Rabbanan many times give lashes called Makkos. It could be there's something called lashes to Rabbanan. There's different types of lashes. There's lashes to Rabbanan, the right time, lashes to Rabbanan. Maimonides, the Rambam says it's biblical prohibition to kiss, to hug a nida. The Nachmanides says it's a rabbinic prohibition. Machloket, but it's like you know what? There's an amazing Gemara in Brachot. It's an amazing Gemara. Listen to this Gemara. It's a little review for some of us. Good morning, Jaime.
Good morning, Rabbi.
Good morning. Good to see you. The Gemara says we're on 14a in the article 14a1. The Gemara says in Brachot, women in Birkat Hamazon, are women obligated to? The Gemara says women are obligated in Birkat Hamazon. Everyone has to remember, if you're married, or wherever you're married, or your sisters, whatever it is, you have to make sure, you have to encourage your wife, your sisters, whatever, your mother, to say Birkat Hamazon. The Mishnah says in Brachot, I think on 28, Nashim Chayavot Birkat Hamazon. Right, Jaime? Right, Yosef? Women are obligated Birkat Hamazon. The Gemara has a question. Is the women's obligation in Birkat Hamazon biblical? Or the women's obligation in Birkat Hamazon Rabbana? That's the Gemara's question. No, the Gemara doesn't answer. You're Ariel, the Gemara. No, but it's not any time you eat. It's not a time-bound mitzvah, Ariel. Anytime you eat. But that's only because that's the time you have that you're still full from the food, that you can still have the ability to say Birkat Hamazon. But the obligation kicks in, Ariel, 7 days a week. It's not a time-bound mitzvah eating bread. So the Gemara, you hear what I'm saying, Ariel? So the Gemara has a question: is the women's obligation Birkat Hamazon rabbinic or min Torah? But the Gemara wants to know, what is the women obligated or not? Min Torah. And then the Gemara says the following amazing word: "My nafkamina." What's the difference? Like Mr. Adju was saying, what's the difference if you're obligated biblically, you're obligated rabbinically? You have to do it. That's the attitude we have to the possibility. That, Mr. Shafti, what do you say about that Gemara? And then I think Mr. Haber is amazing Gemara. So the Gemara answers, I'll tell you what the difference would be. You know what the Gemara says? Okay, we have to make sure people know it. The Gemara says, you know what the difference would be? We know men are obligated. And the Gemara has a question whether women are obligated or not. The difference would be, can a lady say Birkat Hamazon for a man? If ladies are obligated min Torah, then technically she could say for the man. If a lady is not obligated min Torah, she can't. But a biblical obligation, and someone who's only obligated rabbinically, a rabbanan obligation cannot be motzi to cover someone else. That's the Gemara. What? Right, exactly. That's the Gemara's conclusion. And the Gemara, by the way, the Gemara does not answer the question. And in halacha, it's called a sveka de dinah. There's no conclusion whether women are obligated rabbinically or biblical, and therefore a lady can't say Birkat Hamazon for a man. But you should know technically, let's say someone is an older couple or something, and let's say Kiddush and Shabbat, Friday night. Let's say the man has difficulty saying Kiddush, and there's no one who's able to say the Kiddush. She could say the Kiddush. I don't know if I'm going to lose my job here. No, but technically she could say she could say the Kiddush because they're equal obligation regarding Kiddush. She's obligated. A woman is obligated in Kiddush on Shabbat min HaTorah. All the mitzvot of Shabbat, she's obligated just like the man. she might not be able to. Therefore, because it's a, what? Kiddush she can, yes, technically. But I don't know if we should publicize it too much with all the women stuff going on in the world. What's that? He can be your a woman. What? What? Yes, but it's better that she say it herself if she could say it herself. If she can't say it herself, the man should say the Birkat HaMazon. If the lady can't say the Birkat HaMazon, the man should say it for her. Yes. Say it again. If what? If they don't wash, they have to. If the lady doesn't wash for whatever reason, she has to still say "Amotzi." Doesn't make. She's wrong. If she didn't wash, she's wrong. She's doing something. She needs to wash her hands, but she still has to say "Amotzi." Men, the same thing applies exactly. And they have, and unless even if they have to say Birkat HaMazon. Even if you didn't say Amotzi, you still have to say Birkat HaMazon. Each one is its own mitzvah. They missed out. They didn't say Amotzi. You still say Birkat HaMazon. One is not. It's not Derek. Right. Exactly. Okay. So the Gemara says, back to the Gemara. How does Rav Yitzchak know? The Gemara wants to know, how does Rav Yitzchak know there's a separate prohibition, that there's a separate korban for each woman that the Torah grouped together, of his sister, the nidah? How does he know there's a separate korban offering if he sinned unintentionally with these women? So the Gemara says, Naftalei mel isha b'nidat tumata. The Torah says, and to the woman in her nidut, when she's the nidat. And Rashi explained, the pasuk could have just said, ula nidat lo sikra. It didn't need to say, and the woman who was a nidat. Could have just said nidat. There's no extra word in the Torah. By the Torah writing the word el isha b'nidat, the woman in her nidat tumata, is saying this woman alone, is emphasizing this woman alone would be subject to the korban chata. If somebody slept with this nidah not knowing that he's forbidden to sleep with her, and he slept with his aunt, not knowing that he couldn't sleep with his aunt, he's going to have to bring a separate korban, because the Torah was very specific regarding this. It wrote an extra word to emphasize that this woman is independent of everyone else in the group. This woman carries her own weight, as they say. That if he goes ahead and he's with this woman, even though he was with the other woman, he's going to have a separate korban for this woman. For this nidah, even though he slept with his aunt, not knowing he can't sleep with his aunt. Then he slept with another woman who's a nidah, not knowing that he can't sleep with her. So the Torah tells us by writing the El Isha b'nidat tumata, by the Torah writing, and to the woman when she's a nidah. No, but this is according to the one who used his sister for something else. He already, now he, woman, to teach us. But he's saying the word nidah, the need, it's only by woman. The nidah comes from the word of flow, a movement, representing the woman's period. So that's the Navir is saying the Torah, we only find the word nidah in the Torah itself for to a woman. So why did the Torah have to write the word el isha b'nidah? So the Gemara is saying by writing el isha b'nidah is emphasizing that this woman alone, just being with this woman, would carry her own korban.
But Rabbi,
in addition to everybody else, in addition to that, to the other. Oh, that's the next question. The Gemara. That's the next. Back to the other. What?
When you said benidah,
Yosef, hold on 1 second. Dr. David is in the middle of saying something. Sir, say that again. So we're gonna see. We're gonna see in the Gemara we're going to stay tuned about a woman, multiple different prohibitions, if we're going to give her multiple, right, because we're going to see now with Gemara that we will give, if it's separate names, separate prohibitions, even though it's one act, and even though it's one person, we're going to see there's a separate korban for each act, a separate offering for each sin, because you did multiple sins, even though it was the same person.
Nope.
So that exactly the case. That is the case of a korban chatat. The case of a korban chatat, I didn't know, but the fact that a person doesn't know, a person didn't know that I didn't know I can't cook on Shabbat. I didn't know. You have to bring a korban chatat. That's the case of korban chatat. That's the case of bringing a sin offering. You didn't know. He didn't know that this woman was an idah. He didn't know. But at the end of the day, she was an idah. He has to bring a korban, an offering. He's not going to get lashes. But obviously, we're talking about a case that we found out. Somehow they knew that she was an idah. Yeah. She would also, if she would also have to bring a korban. She would also bring a korban. Yosef, I'm going to call you because they're getting ready for minyan right now. I'm going to call you right now, Yosef. In a couple of minutes, I want to wish everyone a chodesh tov. We'll be back tomorrow at 6:45. Beautiful crowd. Yosef, good to see you, Jaime, and chodesh tov to everybody.
Chodesh tov. Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you. You too.
But Rabbi, we have to have a little arm wrestle when I get home.
Okay. Very good.
I'm not happy.
Okay, so I'm going to call you.
But I love you.
Yes, thank you very much. Yeah, Mark says hello.
Mark Ajmi.
When you say that, it sounds scary a little bit. You know that.
What's that? What did you say?
Hi, Mark.
What's doing, H?
How are you?
Good. What country are you in?
You wouldn't believe it if I told you.
I know.
Saudi Arabia.
Oh,
Wow.
Saudi, good for you.
Yeah,
Be successful.
Amen. Bezat Hashem.
When
Chodesh tov. I miss you.
when you coming home?
God willing, I'll be home tomorrow.
So you never ever there before?
First time.
And
Baruch Hashem. All good. They got oil here. I found out.
they give you okay.
I love you.
All right. Do well.
Bye-bye.
God bless. Travel safely.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, you take yours. I'm going to call you. Okay.
Bye.
I'm getting it. I'm getting it. You want me to take the coffee? Yeah.
I think so, but it's still.